Four, three, two, one. We are live. Hello and welcome to PropTech Buzz, a business podcast where we talk to PropTech founders and CEOs from all around the globe and learn from them how to build and scale successful PropTech companies. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me an exciting guest, Kerry Davis. She's the founder of Fortress. Fortress is a revolutionary software company shaping the future of property management in her role as president of Elmington's property management division. She was dissatisfied with the current property offerings in the market and set out to build a better platform for all users. So I'm very excited to have her on my show, and we are gonna talk about a lot about her product. But before I welcome her, plea to all my listeners out here: if you're listening to this podcast and have yet not hit that subscribe button, then please do that, because the more people subscribe to our podcast, the wider is our reach, and the all the exciting wisdom and all the knowledge that our guests share with us gets imparted. You all know PropTech is still a very niche sector when it comes to content, and it's a great service if you are able to spread the word out. We are going to have some fascinating guests also in the days to come. We also have an audio only podcast which is on Spotify. So if you are interested, if you're in your car and if you listen or you're a jog and you like listening to audio only content, go to Spotify and search for PropTech Buzz. You will find us there. With that, let's welcome Kerry. Kerry, welcome to PropTech Buzz. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ravi. Thank you so much for having me. I'll go ahead and reiterate what you said really quickly and just say that the guests that you've had on your podcast have been really, truly incredible, from David Graydon to Michael Beckerman, and even a few of the newcomers in prop tech. And honestly, I love the way that you present the podcast. So just a shout out to you. I think you're doing really great things and really, truly helping founders in prop tech share such a great story.
Thank you so much, Kerry. And also, shout out to you because Fortress is amongst the first 100 products that are getting launched on PropTech Buzz. So we are excited. You win a VIP badge for lifelong. So you're going to get massive privileges to be our first supporters. And we stick to that word. So thanks for that as well. So with that, Kerry, before we go into the meatier stuff, a good context setter will be to learn a little bit about yourself, your career trajectory, and your transition story of building Fortress.
Yeah, thanks. I have a bit of a irregular story, I think, as to how I've entered real estate and then specifically prop tech. So I'm actually an accountant and an attorney by education and also by license. And I really started my career focused on what I thought would be international governmental law and accounting. And actually, while I was in law school, I joined the Army and spent 2 summers and a few years in the ROTC program there. But unfortunately, my second summer with the military, I spent at Fort Knox in an officer training camp environment, and broke both of my feet while I was there. And so, unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue that path in the military. But after graduating law school, I was really lucky enough to have an opportunity to work overseas in a Department of State contractor position, where I spent about a year in the green zone in Iraq, working, handling a lot of HR, logistics, accounting, and truly it was an incredible experience. And I think it is also really indicative of my love for adventure and just really experiencing new things and creating and forging new environments. And so after that, I came back to the US and eventually found my way to Elmington. And that was about 11 years ago. They were my first exposure to real estate. And when I first started with them, it was truly just the four founding partners, Carrie, Ben, Hunter, and Ryan. And They worked in a very, very small office. I was the first full-time employee that they hired. And I actually had to work in one of their closets in the office space. There just wasn't enough space for everybody there. So shout out to Ryan for putting up with me through that. And then, of course, fast forward 11 years later, and Elmington now has 8 lines of business and over 1,000 team members spread across 20 something states. And we're just a really, really large, multifaceted real estate company based in Nashville. And as an extension of that, Fortress is completely its own company, but as an extension of that, Fortress is also still loved by the Elmington family of companies. But that's a little bit about how I got to where I am today, and the evolution into real estate, which has been a really interesting one for me.
Got it. So let's talk about the problem that Fortress is trying to solve.
Yeah.
Before we understand what the solution is, what the product is, let's look at the problem part, because that is also a fascinating story that you came up, that you saw a massive gap in the industry and you went on to solve it. So why don't you educate us on what problem space it was trying to solve?
Yeah. So when I joined Elmington, the partners were mostly focused on acquiring and developing multifamily and commercial spaces. And so just heavy focus in commercial real estate, um, a lot of office residential, and yet also a, a true passion for affordable housing. And fast forward 2 years later, and all of a sudden we find ourselves managing a 5,000 unit property management company. We really didn't know exactly what we were doing. Half of it we had acquired organically, either through family and friends or assets that we had acquired ourselves or developed. And then the other half was through a purchase, a merger of a smaller property management company. And we realized that we were managing a lot of really small assets, very decentralized, spread throughout the Southeast. And we were struggling. My business partners actually came to me and said, we need to figure out how we're going to fix this. We need to scale this company, make it successful, or maybe this isn't the business we need to be in. And I was very, very fortunate to have a lot of passion around this once I started digging in, and was able to actually take Elmington Property Management. With that incredible team, we were able to take it from 5,000 units under management to about 27,000 units under management in less than 5 years. And I will say that a massive part of our ability to do that was forged upon understanding where our operational efficiencies and inefficiencies were. And I think we keep hearing this over and over and over again. And it's part of the reason why prop tech is so big right now and why you are doing what you're doing. There are so many solutions out there, 10,000 solutions that are trying to solve this operational problem. And for me, it was about taking it back down to the basics and figuring out how to create efficiencies, leveraging a true core system, a true core operating system. So when I dug in, I realized that the system that we were using, that we were spending a significant amount of money on, close to $1 million a year for the assets that we were managing, to just manage the rent roll, essentially manage your floor plans, your market rents, your rent roll, your residents, your applicants, your prospects, your work orders, your ledgers, your documents, just essentially managing the rent roll of the asset. That system that we were using should have been one that was providing transparency and real-time data and access and stakeholder that was invested in the success of the asset, from the property management company to the actual leasing team member on site, to the owner, to the asset manager. And the system that we were spending over $1 million a year for was not doing that for us. In fact, it was incredibly cumbersome, very difficult to use. No owners, no asset managers were in the platform. There was no real-time data or transparency or proactive information. And our on-site team members took 3 to 5 days to train in the system. It took us 3 to 5 weeks to onboard new properties. It was terrible. Now, I didn't immediately think that I needed to build a solution. My background is obviously not in technology, but so I went out to the market and started doing all my research. And at the end of the day, there really wasn't anything better. I ended up actually rolling out 2 additional solutions. So at one time, we were running 3 core systems, just trying to figure this out and find a better way. And they all came with the same problems. Some of them had their own nuances of frustration, but they came with the same problems. So at the end of the day, that was really our decision to build Fortress, to solve all of those problems that we were truly feeling at the time. We needed to create transparency, access to all shareholders, ease of onboarding, ease of implementation, and ultimately to build a hub for us to integrate all of these incredible, revolutionary ancillary solutions that are hitting the market today.
Got it. You mentioned about spending $1 million. What was the spend actually towards? Was it on a lot of individual tools? Could you shed some light on where that money was being spent on?
Yeah, so that money was actually just on the core operating system. So that actually had no ancillary solution. Now, to be fair, I guess I need to take a step back. Um, the core systems that exist today in the market are very piecemealed. So they have multiple solutions that they're selling as a part of what they call a core, to include
Mhm.
things like the communication with residents or document storage or integrations with ILSs. Every one of those things is an additional tack on. So I guess if you're asking me, were we paying just $1 million for just the core rent roll software? No, but we were buying all these other things that, in my opinion, are really non-negotiables in this time. So but it was all with like the service provider, the SaaS companies that would advertise themselves as the core property management software.
Got it. And so, when you ventured into building this, did you have competition? Did you have similar products already trying to solve the same problem, but still you were not convinced about an ideal solution? Could you shed some light on what the status quo was in
Mhm.
terms of your immediate competitors?
Yeah. So actually, you had a really good conversation about this with Will Godfried
Yeah,
with Prop Up,
yeah,
and discussed how there are a lot of core players in the market that Prop Up, for example, is trying to integrate with.
right.
And so I would say that there are quite a few competitors in this space, most of which were companies that launched in the 80s. And I would argue that, very similarly to what Michael Beckerman mentioned on your show, actually, that very little R&D goes into real estate technology. And
Right.
so those companies that began in the 80s have not done nearly as much as I think that they should have. And they are still struggling to meet the demands of current sophisticated real estate companies.
Right.
So I don't necessarily look at them as true competition today, only because Fortress has a couple of really key differentiators.
Mhm.
First and foremost, we never sell only Fortress. So my competitors are always only selling themselves.
Got
Right? I mean, they consider themselves a holistic end-to-end ecosystem for real estate, and they have all the additional add-ons that you could ever need. You don't have to go anywhere else. You can, and they have some integrations for that, but that's not what they're doing. Fortress, anytime we go to the table, we are always bringing best in breed partners behind us.
Mm,
Prop Up being one of those, TransUnion being another one. We are huge supporters of the way that TransUnion processes their renter score instead of just a credit score. And that's a topic for another day, but we're always bringing others with us. So we truly do see ourselves as the property management operations hub, and we want to bring a best in breed solution. So that's our first major differentiator that I think really sets us apart. And when someone's looking for an all in one system, we are the first to raise our hand and say, we're not the solution for you. Thank you for your time. You need to go look at these solutions, and here's why we think each of them are good in their own right. Um, the other differentiator is actually a component of this whole we always sell something else, but it's a very specific one that is honestly a massive change for the property management industry. And that
Mm-hmm.
is that we didn't build an accounting ERP.
Mm-hmm.
So my competitors would tell you that their back end is accounting, that their back end accounting system is this or is that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even build one. In fact, instead, the way that Fortress operates is that we do manage a lot of ledgers and ledgers and transactions, and we calculate gain to lease and vacancy loss and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't prepare financial statements. Instead, we have very clean, real time, bi directional APIs that can be used to send all of your financial data to any general ledger accounting system of your choice.
I
And
see.
that truly frees up real estate companies to
Mm.
become extremely advanced in their accounting functions.
Mm. Got it. So these are your differentiators, is how you would put that. Let's try to understand the target audience for you, right? So what would be, where can Fortress be used? What kind of businesses or what kind of properties are we talking about?
Yeah, commercial real estate is obviously very big. I would say that Fortress's sweet spot would be um, who are managing mostly multifamily, conventional, and affordable assets that are anywhere north of 20 units
Mm-hmm.
each. And I would also say that we work really well with mixed portfolios. We
Mm-hmm.
actually have a commercial arm of Fortress that can manage commercial rent rolls and CAM and tenant leases and a lot of commercial specific components for office and retail space.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would say that's not our target demographic. It is just truly that we want to be able to create a really holistic ecosystem from an operations front for anyone who's managing a disparate base of asset types.
Got it. Could you explain what a mixed portfolio would look like? What would it mean, mixed portfolio?
Yeah. Mixed portfolio for us means a property management operating company who's managing conventional multifamily assets. So, your typical garden style or high rise in downtown that is rented out without any sort of rent restriction. Affordable units. And when we say affordable at Fortress, we mostly mean the big A affordable. So, low income housing tax credit, HUD, rural development, all of those sorts of assets, which just come with a lot of additional regulatory compliance and state XMLs and HUD reporting. And then the third for us would be any sort of a commercial unit. So mostly retail and office, but also even some industrial and warehouse as well.
Excellent. Let's talk about your business model. So does it have any SaaS play, software as a service? Maybe shed some light on what price points are you offering and what is your business model?
Yeah. So our business model is really predicated on how the industry currently sees prop tech and what I think feels really comfortable to them. It's not necessarily something that we're hanging our hat on. We actually talk about this quite often if there are ways to become a little more creative in how we manage our pricing model. But today it's industry standard, which is completely SaaS based. It is a certain dollar amount per unit per month. And that is what all of my competitors are doing. It's what all of the ancillary solutions are doing. I will tell you, there's a running joke with ancillary point solutions. So those kind of bolt on like a prop up. There's a running joke that you can go to market with any ancillary point solution at $1 a unit, and people will be interested in it. I would say that our price point is closer to $3 to $5 per unit per month, really
Hmm.
depending on what additional partners that we bring to the table are chosen, right? So our price is one thing, but we bucket all of those partners that we bring to the table. We have reseller agreements with them. So TransUnion, Sage Intact, PropUp, we have reseller agreements so that we can incorporate all of that pricing into one price, one sticker price per unit per month. It doesn't fluctuate. It doesn't take you 3 months of discovery to figure out how much you're actually paying for your prop tech, and just to create ease and transparency for our customers.
Got it. Kerry, do you want to unpack that joke? Because I think there is a hidden wisdom there. So I did not get that joke. So what's the joke? So when we say $1 per unit and it sells by itself, what am I missing there? Like, could you help me understand? Is easy to sell because it is tied to the pricing is tied to the number of units? Is that how it is?
Mm, that's one reason. Although I would actually say that it is more a component of something that that you and Michael Beckerman actually discussed quite a bit, which is that there are so many problems in real estate, in commercial real estate, specifically in operations, from inefficiencies in acquisitions and dispositions to extreme operational inefficiencies. And those range from work orders to leasing to resident interactions to collection to document storage. I mean, the inefficiency list goes on and on and on. And operators are so hungry to try to fix these problems that they are willing to try almost anything that can come in at that
Mm,
per unit per month price point. They're just
got it.
so anxious and want to do it. The
Got it.
problem is that adoption, which is another conversation that you've had a lot actually, adoption is a massive issue in property management operations, in real estate operations. And it's not because of lack of desire, it's because the integrations are really terrible and semi non existent. And that creates a lot of concern and frustration and lack of usability when you're talking about decentralized property management companies.
Mhm. Got it. Excellent. Help me understand with your expertise, especially if there could be competitors and you could be kind to your competitors as well. How does one stand out in such a competitive and crowded market and still succeed?
Oh, Robbie, that question. You know, I told you this. This forum isn't necessarily the most comfortable for me. I much prefer to be in the background and working on operations and product. But I'm going to be very uncomfortably honest with you. It is extremely hard. It's
Hmm.
really hard. I am up against 1,000-pound gorillas in this room, and they have they are spending millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on marketing, and it is really difficult. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't have words of wisdom here. We haven't figured it out. I can say that there's two things that are really important to me and that I think set us apart slightly, which is that we are very direct and we are authentically who we are. And I think that that is helpful to some, but that's definitely a problem that we have not cracked the code on just yet.
So it's a problem most of the players have. And when you talk about 1,000-pound gorillas, do you want to name a few gorillas?
I'm so sorry. Do I want to name a few?
Gorillas.
Oh, yeah. So I think Yeah, I will say that Yardi and RealPage are the two that we come up against most often. But I mean, Entrada and Appfolio are doing really great things too. So those are, and like I said, you and Will had a really great conversation around those as well. But those are the big players in the market.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, so since this is a business podcast, and I asked you exactly this, one of my segment is always on the growth, because hey, there are other entrepreneurs who are also listening to this podcast, and everybody is looking at growth, right? Maybe from your experience, could you shed some light on what growth strategies have worked for you in the past? I'm sure you're still looking for further growth, but what has worked for you in the past? Is it through partnership? Is it through? So you also mentioned that you can never compete with some of the big competitors with money and throwing as much money on marketing. But still, what has worked for you in the past is something that you would like to share with us.
It's really interesting that real estate is still such a handshaking business. And unfortunately for us, that means that marketing is still really expensive and a little bit less efficient than we would prefer that it be as a SaaS company. We have found a lot of success just diving into that and spending a lot of time at conferences and meeting people face to face
Hmm.
and utilizing techniques for outbound strategic calling. And at the end of the day, if real estate is still a very personal experience and a handshake business, then we have to meet our customers and partners where they're at. And so we've really embraced that in how we are experiencing growth. The second thing that I would say is that you used a word that I love. We actually call our clients our partners, but that's really confusing externally. So we don't really say it externally, but internally we consider them our partners, to the point at which you Fortress partners have the opportunity to invest in Fortress. And they've taken us up on that. And then they're very excited about the new features that we're rolling out and the innovations that we're looking for. And they want to be a part of that with us. And that has been really exciting for both us and them and has definitely contributed to our growth.
Excellent. Now let's talk about how the space is evolving. Okay. Do you see the space is set to be a consolidating? That means that there will be competitors that are going to join together, and there will be fewer players, or do you see more players mushrooming in this space?
Yeah. In my specific space of the core operating system, I don't see um, much opportunity for competitors in this space. I think they are the gorillas in the room are massive and pretty threatening. And I don't, here's what I'll say actually. I'm going to take a step back and be really honest again. If I had known when I started Fortress, if I had known then what I know now about how difficult it is to build a core software and how we manage resident ledger balances and calculations for vacancy and gain and loss to lease and security deposit balances and interest on security deposits, if I had known everything that I know now then, I have to be honest with you, Ravi, I wouldn't have done it. So I guess
Hmm.
ignorance, it's one of those situations where ignorance was a really good thing.
Hmm.
Um, the concept of building a core solution is like taking an ancillary solution times 20 times 30. It's huge. We have a massive system, and I don't see many companies, especially with VC funds tightening, I don't see many companies doing what we've done. And also, I don't think that they think they have to, because those core systems already exist, and all they have to do is integrate and charge a dollar and they're good to go, right? So I I don't see that happening. But in terms of what the space looks like today and moving forward, I think what we are going to continue to see are really incredible, innovative point solutions, such
Yeah.
as prop up, and more specifically, the solutions that are meeting our renters where they really, really care, which is at their wallets, and creating some form of affordability, with solutions like Flex and others that are offering either rent payment structures or security deposit structures. And I think those are going to continue to grow. And I really do think that ancillary solutions are going to continue to pop up in a really great way. I do think that there's going to be continued frustration from owners and operators on how they adopt those solutions
Mm.
when the integrations just aren't there. In fact, we met with a 15,000 unit property management company a couple of months ago, and their on site teams are managing 4 calendars. Four,
Wow.
because they're using different solutions. So they have to manage a calendar for all of their resident follow up for collections, a calendar for virtual tours that are being scheduled, a calendar for actual in person tours that are being scheduled, a calendar for maintenance and work order schedules. It's incredible, what's happening. So I think for me, I see continued growth in ancillary solutions, and I see continued frustration with the lack of integrations.
Got it. So the industry is a laggard. Everybody speaks about it. But do you still see any technological disruption happening in the coming years? Or it's going to remain the same and there will be competition for the same kind of tech by similar kinds of competitors?
Yeah. You know, I think part of the laggard component of real estate, specifically in how it relates to tech, is a part of this handshaking mentality that we have. And my hope is that we can reframe how we look at it today. Again, getting a little uncomfortable. I have been in so many rooms where people want to say the thing that they're thinking and they're afraid to, which is, if I implement prop tech, does that mean that I can cut expenses, specifically payroll expenses, right? That's what they want to do. They want to say it, but and everyone's thinking it, but no one really wants to say it, especially in an industry where the human investment in the handshaking is so important. What I tend to invite people to discuss when I'm in those rooms, and you feel the tension and you know that's what they want to say, but they're not saying it, I try to reframe the conversation the to a more strategic opportunity, which is that if we are able to lever technology to reduce mundane tasks, then you can actually take those same payroll dollars and allocate them to higher level positions. And you can start paying less people more money at higher levels to perform better for you and for the asset. And at the end of the day, ultimately, I do think that's going to save you payroll money, but it's also going to give you a much better experience and help you be more successful. And if we just reframe how we're leveraging technology to impact payroll, then I think it first of all, it's true. I firmly believe it. But second of all, it allows us to actually talk about it and to push forward in that way. But I think in order for technology to progress, we need to embrace that mentality.
Got it. If you remember my conversation with Michael, one of the things that he said was, so I want to understand this handshake mentality. Um, uh, is the industry still driven by relationships when it comes to making technology buying decisions, or are there buyers who want to have an objective outlook, go online, research, make up their own mind, maybe take some help, buying guides and stuff like that, and make those decisions. Is there a shift, or how strong is the handshake mentality? Maybe shed some light on that dynamic a bit.
I think that there are still a lot of real estate executives and operators who want to operate in your former description. But I think there are some who want to operate in the latter, which is going online, doing research, objectively making a decision, and choosing a solution and rolling it out. I think part of the problem is in something that Michael so appropriately pointed out, which is that they want, and I quote, boots on ground to
Mm.
actually implement the solution. And in my opinion, that is a symptom of the bigger problem, which is that integrations don't work very well, solutions aren't user friendly, and adoption becomes a massive issue, which means you actually want someone there literally holding your hand to roll out technology, which in most cases means that the technology isn't at the level that it should be at.
Mm. Got it. Got it. That's, I think you have hit the nail on its head. If you need boots on the ground, if you need somebody actually hand holding to deploy your software, that means it is not ready to scale. So I completely understand that. Um, Excellent. Maybe you could shed some light on. So I asked all the entrepreneurs out there, what are the biggest lessons in this journey? The big highs and the lows. We begin with lows, and then we do the highs.
I have had so many lessons in this journey. I think, especially in technology, when you aren't an engineer, and that's the perspective that I bring to this. I'm an accountant and an attorney. I'm a bit of a rule follower and I like my guidebooks. And I'm not an engineer. So when we started developing Fortress, the biggest challenge for me was absolutely lack of control. So realizing that there was a lot of coding and activity taking part that I couldn't understand, literally couldn't read it. It's another language, right? And so that lack of control. And I will tell you that that is that was my biggest lesson at Fortress. And now I'm gonna be really uncomfortable and share a very humbling story. When I first started Fortress, the first 5 months that we were building it, I had a team of 5 in place that I was working with. And after 3 months, I realized I couldn't see anything. I didn't have access to anything. And it was all going on behind this curtain. And I felt super uncomfortable. So I spent the next month working really hard with the head of engineering to figure out how I could see something and make sure that I felt comfortable with what was happening. And I still couldn't. So I had to go to my partners, my business partners, the original founding partners of Elmington, and I had passed a hat to start Fortress. And I had to go to them and say that I had wasted about $500,000 trying to build something and I still couldn't see anything and I wanted to start over. I just didn't feel good about the direction of it. And it was an incredibly humbling and difficult experience, but I'm so, so thankful that I did it. The next team that I ended up working with, and we ended up outsourcing a little bit, had something to show me in 2 weeks. And I was able to actually be involved in the process and help them iterate and expand upon the solution to what it is today. And I have to say that was definitely my biggest low, also biggest learning experience, but learning how to give up control, but doing it in a way that you're comfortable with and still have insight is so helpful.
Excellent. Let's talk about the highs.
Yeah, the highs are so much better. Um, those sales. So when you close a deal and you have a new partner, it is absolutely the best feeling in the world. When you roll out a new solution, a new feature that solves a problem, and those partners, those clients are so excited and happy to use it, and they are emailing you with massive like party balloons, emojis, and all the great things. It's truly a feeling like no other to really create and deliver, and then impact users in that way, that they feel productive and they feel efficient and they love going to work every day and working in this software. And then the team, at the end of the day, I have the most phenomenal team, and getting to come to work with them every day is really incredible.
Excellent. My last question here is, where are you headed next? So where is what is in the roadmap for Fortress? Where does how does the next year or so look like for you? Maybe shed some light there.
Yeah, we've spent the past year focusing on some really incredible in-system features. We actually have a new smart price tool that provides pricing recommendations to our conventional units to help them make daily pricing adjustments. We've also rolled out a new payment solution, in system reputation management. We just have so many really awesome things that we're working on right now and that we've rolled out over the past year. Looking forward, we're really invested in our integrations architecture, and making sure that we are that hub for all of those incredible, really innovative point solutions to integrate to.
Got it. Thank you. Well, this brings us to the end of a very, very
Yeah.
fascinating conversation with Kerry. Kerry, thank you for spending time with us and sharing so much of your wisdom and so openly. I think some of the opinions, some of the observations that you shared were quite sensitive in nature, but you still opened up, and good that you did, because I think more people should be open about some of these questions and pose it to the world out there. So thanks for doing that, and being on my show.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. Honestly, you ask the best questions and you leave them so open ended. So it's really a reflection of you, not me. But I really appreciate being here.
Thank you so much, Kerry. See you around. Bye bye.